Go straight to Abuja, where we'll be looking at IMF and World Bank decision on Nigeria, particularly with regards to inflation. And I have joining me from their partner and senior economist at SPM Professionals, Mr. Paul Alaje. Mr. Paul, thank you so much for your time on the show. It's good to have you.
Much for having me. Good afternoon.
Yes, let's get to the discussion very quickly. IMF and World Bank is saying that inflation in Nigeria this time will be like the highest, considering all of the issues that we faced. First, what is your reaction to this? What do you think around the submission from the IMF and World Bank?
Well, from the reaction, my reaction rather would be that what they are saying is not far from what is expected, because not just as an economist, also as a manufacturer, I can tell you that input prices have continued to go up, partially because those who want to affect FX to import some of their inputs are not able to get it as at when due. Most of these people are forced to go back to the parallel market, where FX, as we speak, is about 615, unlike what could be accessed at the official rate, about 412, 416, or 420 at most. So even if it's I&E window, it's still far better. So when people are not able to access FX, it poses a lot of challenges. Again, spiral inflation. Inflation is already high at over 17%. And as more sectors are affected by industries or other sectors that are charging higher prices, then it's going to have negative implications, because that will further increase the rate at which such sector will charge people in terms of sales. So bottom line, inflation in Nigeria is now going beyond what you may want to call high inflation. For me, it is spiral in nature, and if you don't mind it very well, we might be experiencing even a higher inflation than 17%. I understand the Monetary Policy Committee, through the Central Bank Governor, has communicated with us that they are going to take necessary decision to tame inflationary pressure. But will monetary measure be sufficient to tame inflationary pressure? It's a lot of concern as we speak right now.
All right there, Mr. Paul. There are lots of issues that we contend with really at this time. And first is the issues around fuel shortage and, of course, growth of Nigeria's economy. With all of the efforts now on both sides, monetary, fiscal side, there's been a lot of discussions around that, some saying that the monetary side cannot alone move this economy to where we expect it to be. So what would be your submission with regards to this? And what are your expectations moving on in 2022 as we move strategically to an election year?
Well, we need government that will become more innovative. As I talk to you, on the streets of Abuja, there are vehicles queuing up, looking for fuel. And if you ask me, what are the reasons why there seems to be queue perpetually in Abuja and in other parts of the north? I think some states in the northern part, it is because to lift using 33,000 liters or more of truck from south to north, particularly Lagos or some other parts in the south-south region, to the north, is going to cost diesel. It costs diesel. Now, when government worked out the current subsidy arrangement, the challenges we have with Russia and Ukraine in terms of scarcity of refined oil and some other crises that came with Russia and Ukraine issue or war that is ongoing, some of these things were not factored in. So how much of profit will a truckloader or a transporter earn or make by transporting from from Lagos to Abuja or other parts of the north? Meanwhile, it pays him or her to sell the same somewhere closer. They are now looking at the cost, because there are provisions that are made. As we speak, because of diesel, as of today, it's about 830 naira per liter. What used to be 300 naira in December or January the same year. It's now a thing of concern for even transporters. So logistics is playing a lot of roles, and government must find an alternative. You see, I think since we started electioneering process, the energy around the rail, the conversation along the rail that government has been doing in the last 7 years, all those energy seems to be going down, especially as with movement of people, and we have also encouraged government to consider movement of goods along the rail line. This solution will not be short-term based, it will be long-term based. Apart from what I've mentioned earlier, you may also want to consider other factors that may affect inflation. Insecurity. Just the day before yesterday, in the middle of the night, we saw what happened. We experienced some unprecedented attack in Kuje prison. And this, of course, we also send signal to some of the farms. And if you want to know, Kuje area, that part of Kuje is where you have a lot of structured and organized farms, within the FCT. We have quite a number of others within the FCT because Abuja is one of the organized environments in Nigeria. What happens to those who might be farming along that area or who might be processing within the Kuje Area Council? Would that not affect confidence, even those that may want to go bring out outputs or farms and to take it to city center? What all of this is saying is that in the coming period, when you start analyzing inflation beyond a national gross and you are breaking it down into state by state, some states will be having higher figure, and I'm afraid some of them may even reside in the north. When you remove food inflation because they are closer to the food basket, but when you consider other factors, I can tell you that some other states will, of course, be experiencing what you might call high inflation in the coming period.
World Bank has slammed Nigeria directly, saying that our reaction remains slow, and that's the word they used, slow, and this might push more people into poverty line, of course, and food insecurity, just like you've identified. People might not be able to go to the farms. We already have that happening in some states in the north. So what's your reaction to what the World Bank has said, and how better would we have responded to this as a country?
Well, there are a lot of things that we could have done that we have not done. A lot of things we could have done. We can respond with monetary. We have seen central bank and that of Monetary Policy Committee coming to respond by increasing rate so that inflation could be tamed. That is just coming, even though it's relatively slow, but we've seen some improvement in that regard. We also need to do more in terms of what is the genesis. There is something that seems to be drawing us on our truth, which is whatever happened to global oil price will definitely have impact on us as a nation. And when we don't have enough in terms of FX in our foreign reserve, it always has implication on what exchange rate will be. Over the years, these are not new things. We have been experiencing this in the last 20 years, in the last 30 years. What seems to be shocking is that the same approach, the same method is how we have been responding, government in, government out. We have not been proactive over the years. We have been reactionary. And that might be the reason why IMF is saying Nigeria is slow. More importantly, you may also want to consider an issue that has to do with what we are buying PMS right now. And government subsidy, one of the things IMF and World Bank has advised government to do. But what IMF and World Bank have not said is that the people are already poor. So if you remove what will be the implication in the short term, you might see increase in prices. Will that improve earning capacity of the people? How many more people will be thrown into poverty? Or what is the lasting solution? And I'd like to take time to explain this to many Nigerians and those who are concerned and those that love Nigerians. If exchange rate were to be what it was in 2014 or in 2010, the truth is that government truly would not say she's paying subsidy, because there will be no subsidy anywhere. What government is subsidizing is poor exchange rate management. What government is subsidizing, because if exchange rate were to be 200 to $1 today and people are buying at the rate at which they are buying, there is no subsidy anywhere. But over the time, exchange rate has been devalued. And when you look at debt profile, we have also seen significant increase, more than 2-3 trillion that has added in the last 4 years because of devaluation. So this is a big issue. Unfortunately, a lot of people like to shy away from discussing things that devaluation is doing to us. It's doing more evil than good. People say, but China continue to devalue. And I say, excuse me, can you produce in the quantity China is producing and sell to the rest of the world? The day we are able to do that, we have shifted our orientation from a consuming nation to a productive nation. But which consuming nation will continue to allow his currency to have a free fall, hoping that someday there will be a stopper that will be through an unseen force will stop it. I think that will not be a good sign or a good economic policy. So this SHG is dealing with us big time. Again, can we produce oil locally? We have 4 refineries. Even if these 4 refineries cannot satisfy all our local demand, certainly they can solve some of the problem. And I see no reason why these 4 refineries have remained moribund, why these 4 refineries have remained in the hands of government. Even if government says it still wants to have some level of control or influence, I think private sector could be brought to the mainstream and auction it the way in the similar manner we had with telecoms, not the one we have with electricity. That will not be a good model at all. But when you look at the arrangement we have with telco and we repeat the same, we can say that to a large extent or to some extent, we've solved part of the problem. On the other hand, we have heard about private sector refinery coming up. I think government will need to do more to encourage and to support the private sector to make this to come to the mainstream. Lastly, is to also consider modular refinery. This is a solution. The truth is that we have seen Russia-Ukraine war going on and we are witnessing it. What we don't know is which country we want to fight with another, or what again will cause disruption on global oil prices. I am not a prophet of doom, but from experience, we have seen that even before COVID, America had issue with Russia. Prices, taxes were increased on both sides. That had implication on Nigeria that had no issue. COVID struck in China. It went throughout the rest of the world. Nigeria was part of the country that practiced lockdown. That affected Nigeria because there was no demand, there was no supply of crude. Again, Russia and Ukraine, 2 countries in eastern part of Europe. Nigeria has no influence, not even in Africa, let alone in West Africa or Nigeria. Today, diesel price jumped from 300 naira to 830 naira. Which country will be next? This is how I think our leaders should think. We should now know that we cannot continue to depend on the rest of the world on commodities that are very critical to our survival, that are critical to our manufacturing, that are critical to our GDP, that are critical to exchange rates. How do we start solving this problem one after the other? Unfortunately, 20 years ago, we have experienced some of the challenges. Today, the issue we had 20 years ago, they are still very much present with us without having significant solutions or meaningful solutions to them.
If we are to look at all of these issues that we contend with as a country, what will be your outlook for Nigeria moving on? We've seen outlooks, we've seen reprojections, we've seen World Bank and IMF, yes, again, reviewing all of these figures. But with all of this, do you think that the outlook for the 2022 year, what do you expect was wrapping up this year with all of these challenges if we will continue like this? FX, as of today, a dollar at the parallel market is above 600 naira.
Well, what I am expecting is to be flat when you compare it with 2021. But what will change the narrative, honestly, will be who are we presenting as a nation for 2023? Because that will either bring hope or dash the hope the rest of the world, and of course Nigeria has in themselves, the rest of the world had in Nigeria, or the hope that Nigeria have in themselves. But looking at 2023, and we want to look at macroeconomic indicator, starting with the GDP. GDP, we have started seeing the figure, even though when we compare with 2021, we have seen some positive turn in the GDP figures. Are we going to experience that all throughout 2022, knowing that inflation, which of course we have effect on the real GDP, continue to go haywire, 17% expectation is that it might even be going towards 18%. And if you are not careful, for the first time in a very long time, we might be seeing 19% inflation or 20% inflation. I hope the authority will do the needful before we get out of hands. And if that happens, it means more people at least because of that implication, more people will be joining poverty line because what they earn today will not certainly be enough for them. Central Bank may respond by further devaluing Naira. Parallel market, you know what Naira will be. The committee that recommended to President to pay 30,000 minimum wage, their work might also be thrown to futility because at that time, you will see that we will now be paying people again to be poor. Meanwhile, they have done their best to see how we can leave more people out of poverty bracket by saying we should pay 30,000 minimum wage. But when you look at exchange rate today, you see that significant part of income of labor has been eroded. And anybody that earns 30,000 today is not better off than the person that earned 10,000 naira in 2010, which that is the reality. So it is not about the figure. It is about what the money can buy. So what do I think? I think there will be a flat out because not so much of expectation. People are living with one eye closed because of insecurity. We also have challenges of inflation. Unemployment remains 33.1%, another major parameter for measuring the performance of an economy. And again, you may also want to look at HDI index. Quite a number of parameters you want to look, which seems not to be improving. And when you look at the atmosphere and you look at political environment, you wonder if government is still concerned about economy because what seems to be the beliefs of many and what seems to be policy direction is more of who will be the leaders at the state level, at the federal level, and maybe at the local government level. This is what politicians are concerned more about. And we should not be surprised because in pre-election year, this is the real activity that we should experience. Whether this pre-election year will be like many others that we have experienced, will be a different ballgame. Because most of the time, when you check what we had in 2006, and after 2006, you check what we have in 2010, 2014, and 2018, pre-election year continue to be that year where we have the highest growth because most politicians will spend their money and spend their way into office. Will this be the same? Will this have impact on productivity of labor or productivity of factor of production? And will it have direct impact on our GDP? It's a different conversation entirely because of the new trends that we are seeing now because of high inflation, high poverty, and high unemployment. If it is, the best we can get is flat when you compare 2021 to 2022.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paul Alhaji Amos. Thank you for your time on the show. As usual, senior economist and partner, SPM Professionals. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so very much for having me.